Outside, yeah. Mr. Ballard's almost back.
I was wondering when we get summer. Welcome.
You the attorney? You're attorney.
Yeah. Eventually.
Good.
Hmm?
Greg, are we good?
Yeah, that'd be-
Greg,
that'd be awkward.
Greg, can you hear me?
I
Are
can
we
hear you.
good? Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Meridian Transportation Commission meeting of Monday, July 6, 2026. Hope everyone had a great 4th. Hope nobody got hurt blasting fireworks or started fires. We'll start with the roll call. Mr. Ballard.
Present.
I am present. Mr. Bansell. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Hopkins. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Welcome, sir. Tom Leclerc. Mr. Lancaster.
Present, and it's nice to have you back, Mr. Chair, and
On the commission?
yeah, on the commission. It would have been awkward had the chair not been reappointed.
I've done this a lot, and I told the people upstairs this has never happened before, but it did. So anyway, here we are. We have a new ACHD rep, Diane Bevins. Ms. Bevins, are you with us? She wrote me earlier today and said she is returning from vacation and may or may not be online. So Craig, she may appear during the meeting.
She is online. She
is.
just got promoted to panelist.
Okay. Mr.
I'm
Miller
here.
with Compass.
Thank you.
Aaron Sweeney. Welcome. Kate Dahl with VRT. Mark Wasdahl, our IRT rep. ITD rep, wrong one, ITD. Somebody told me they were still off today. Sergeant Carter. Tricia Murray,
I am here.
welcome. Mr. McClure, Mr. Bergman, and Mr. Hood are all present and accounted for. Thank you, gentlemen. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the June 1, 2026 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion or comments or changes or suggestions, please. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Lancaster, a second by Mr. Ballard. I have one thing. Craig, would you please make a change to add the fact that Mr. Ballard and I were present in the audience? You can call us attendees, citizens, residents, hangers-on, whatever you'd like, but I would like the minutes to reflect that we were in the room, please.
I prefer hangers on, Mr. Chairman.
Okay?
I like mugwump.
Craig will work it out. Anything else from anyone? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all very much. Next item on the agenda is item number 2, the staff transportation project tracking. And I believe that will be Mr. Bergman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I don't have any big updates on the transportation tracking for this month. Just to provide some awareness, though, we are coming up on the 5-year plan, so you will see that here next month. So happy to stand for any questions you may see in there.
Anyone else have anything in that long list of projects that are going on out there?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
it does look like there were several updates added to the document this month. And I did note that a few projects have been postponed or seemingly canceled. I guess the question is this a trend that we're seeing with changes in transportation funding?
I have no idea. Does anyone else have an opinion or a comment?
I'm happy to answer a little bit of my knowledge from that.
Please.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, ITD did have a board meeting in the middle of June. A couple of projects in District 3 were removed. Our funding was removed from those projects, roughly 15 of them. There are a few projects in Meridian, but it does look like ITD is still continuing with right-of-way and design of those projects. And then they're planning to shelve them when funding may come back for them. So that is the biggest update that we have from ITD regarding projects in District 3, but there was a big slash to some of that funding.
And do you know what the source of the slashed money would have been?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ballard?
Mr. Bergman, so I do not have the details, but the headline said 1 billion. Did I get that right?
That is correct, Commissioner Ballard.
And that affects, and I didn't drill down, nor did I have the access. Does that affect like the Highway 16 extension? If you know?
I have Mark online. He might be able to provide some answer to that question.
Okay.
Let me get him in here for you.
Mr. Wasdall, did you hear the
Okay.
question?
Yes, I did. I apologize. I was having technical difficulties, had to restart. Yeah, from the number I heard was over the 7-year program, the District 3 alone had to cut 1.27 billion in projects. I don't have a complete tally, but I thought the number, I want to, and I think it was somewhere in the 50s. Currently funded projects that are under construction are still good. Or so I'd said last month, it was the operations and maintenance budgets are fine. It's the big difference is in our TECM program. That one did not get a funding amount this year. So that's the main difference we have. We have some larger planning and design that we're working on, hoping to have that money ready when it's when the funding comes back. But that's my understanding at this point. We do have our ITIP out for public comment for the entire month of July. And you can go through and see which individual projects are still there or no longer there.
So Highway 16 is still okay?
16 is okay. That's under construction between 84 and Chinden. The design is still going for, as is the, even though it's in Star, the 1644 interchange. The design and right of way is funded for the 16 extension from 1644 to Beacon Light. But the actual construction money for that was part of the losses that we pulled from the program.
Okay, and the Linder overpass?
I think that one is currently funded. We think we have the bridge structure for that. Anything that's currently under construction, that money was there before we put it out to bid. And those current construction projects are unaffected.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome,
Chair?
sir.
Mr. Ballard?
Mr. Wasdell, maybe this is a political question. I'm trying to understand if the headline says funds were cut, does that mean that there was an item in the budget that was approved, but a shortfall has developed, or they've been cut because somebody made a decision to delay or pull those projects? And what's kind of odd is on the other side of this, I thought that the state of Idaho was enjoying a surplus of tax receipts. and I'm not asking you to be political or weigh in. I'm just trying to understand what is meant when it says funds have been cut.
Well,
Uh,
I'll put a finer point on it. Whose funds, please?
Again, I'm probably not the one with the full knowledge of the budget. My understanding is that in terms of revenue, state-funded revenue that covers operations and maintenance, as you said, those are covered, no problem there. It's just that for our Techum bonding program, which is state money, was it the year before? The state legislature had the intention to do 20, 20, and 20 million for a total of 60 to bond out. I think we got the first 20 million. This was the second year, and the state legislature declined to fund. So I guess if there was the intention to bond 60 million and we only bonded 20, I guess that could count as a cut from one perspective. Another, it's like, well, it's just, that's just the way things go. Sometimes the money's there, sometimes it's not. Probably unsatisfactory answer, but off of the expectation we had, I guess that would count as a cut, but it's never real money until the year it shows up. That's what I've learned while working at ITD.
I appreciate that, and I wasn't trying to
No, I understand.
get you in front of your skis or ask you to outside of your scope of responsibilities. I appreciate that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Mr. Wasdale, I will ask you that if you can expand on that a little bit for our next meeting during the ex officio updates, maybe you could give us a little more specificity about it. Not asking for you to totally drill down, but I didn't know if it was federal funds cut, state funds cut, or what funds.
That should have been just the state bonding money, separate
Okay.
packet of money. That's my
Okay,
understanding,
well-
but I will follow up and have a lot more confidence next month.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Mr.
Chair,
Chair.
if I can
Sir.
ask for clarification, I appreciate you asking Mr. Wasdale to speak to this next month. My question is, I don't want to say this correctly. If it's not within his scope or responsibility, can we ask a person who can speak to that addresses?
Okay. We'll figure it out.
All right, good enough. Thank you.
Mr. Lancaster.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I can add a little bit more about state funding too, but I do see in our project list that some projects on ACHD system are delayed too. So I guess I'd like to hear if it's affecting ACHD too, but at least on the state system, go back half a dozen or so years, the design construction budget for the year was about 300 million. Okay. And that swelled all the way to 600 million because of surplus tax. So the legislature decided to put half of the surplus into transportation. And then that was split 60-40 between the state and local agencies. So that surplus is gone, right? So tax cuts and declining revenues, there's no more surplus state tax. So essentially the state's budget is back down to 400 million. So it's still bigger than it was, but it's smaller than it was with extra money infused into the system. So the funding is about 2/3 of what it has been the last half dozen or so years.
Okay. Commissioners, other comments either about that or other items in the project tracking? A question for staff, and y'all may or may not know, or maybe ACHD rep does if she has joined us, is USTIC from 10 Mile to Black Cat complete? I haven't seen any activity on it in the past couple of weeks. There was some dressing up on the outside of the south side of Ustick at Black Cat, but that appears to have been finished. The report that's in our papers still reads as if it's from a month ago.
Chairman Steed, this is Diane Bevins with ACHD. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly well. Welcome. Safe trip back, I presume, since you're on
Yes.
with us.
Yes, thank you. Ustick Black Cat to 10 Mile is complete.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis.
oh, I think the project has dropped off our list. I don't see it anywhere on here.
It's on page, what is that, 17?
Mr. Chair, any project that is listed as complete is actually removed from this list for the commission. So the project that we have available on there is Ustick McDermott to Black Cat. Is that
Okay.
the one you're in
And then-
question?
And then the Linder to 10 Mile is still on there, of course. And, okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all straightening me out on that. Anything else on this topic? Okay, with that, we will move on to item 3, the East Third Street Extension Alignment. Mr. Hood, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Today I'm going to do a little bit of some history and a little bit of a refresher for you. Actually, we talked about this corridor here about 6 months ago, and council was given a presentation by MDC's consultant last December as well on this topic, but it has been about 6 months, so bear with me a little bit. Some of this may sound familiar to you, but want to make sure we're all, jumping back on at the same point with the same information. In your packet, you do have an updated white paper as well as the 2009 study that looked at East 3rd Street potentially East 3rd Street all the way between Story Park at Franklin Road and Fairview Avenue. I guess maybe before I go too far, this is listed as an action item, a potential action item on your agenda. And I don't want to stop you from potentially taking action on it if you so choose today. But I will share that Chris Danley, who is MDC's consultant on this matter, would like to address you next month and answer any questions you may have on, again, the white paper that he's prepared. And I can maybe address, depending on what the question is. He just, due to scheduling, he wasn't available today to attend. But the mayor did want us to start thinking about this again as you prepare, hopefully to make a recommendation to council on what to do next, including the potential for a different action item than what's been on the books since 2009. So this has been a longstanding city priority corridor or connection, again, between Franklin and Fairview, generally an alignment of East 3rd Street. So as I think all of you are aware, East 3rd is continuous, pretty straight alignment all the way Franklin north across the railroad tracks, across Pine until you get to Carlton. And then you hit a T and you got to go left or right. You're staring right at the ball fields for, I don't know if Craig has an exhibit to pull up. That picture that's on the screen there is older. That's, almost 20 years old now. That exhibit, but the field, the ball field that's there for Cole Valley hasn't really changed. It looks the same. So you run into a T there at the ball fields for Cole Valley. And the idea was, this was at the same time before the roadway configuration is what you see now with Meridian and Main. At that point, in early 2000s, there was the Downtown Meridian Transportation Management Plan that was put together and talked about. And there was actually a one-way couplet that was kind of getting a lot of attraction, and there's a lot of momentum to actually have Main Street be one way and Meridian Road be one way, not just south of the tracks, but all the way between the interstate and Fairview Avenue. So that was getting a lot of press and talk about in our community at that time. At the same time, that's why a lot of Third Street came up, is you need to have an ancillary sort of two-way corridor collector that could also handle some local, kind of business traffic, but wouldn't make, you didn't have to get on the one-way corridors that were at that point contemplated to be Main and Meridian. So the exhibit, so forget the yellow that you see on the screen there right now, because that's what the MDC's consultant has sort of brought back to the table. That really wasn't studied back in 2008, 2009 too terribly much, largely because of signal separations. And we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more probably today and then even next month. But the four options that you see there on the screen were all evaluated in this 2008, 2009 study and adopted by the city and ACHD. So over the last almost 20 years now, we have comp plan policies that talk about preservation of East 3rd Street. So spoiler, it was 3rd Street. The red alignment there that was selected as the preferred alignment for 3rd Street extension. Pretty straight, and it got you a little bit more separation between signals at Main Street. So again, we've been building as staff, we've been building off of the premise that someday 3rd Street would be extended. We talk about it almost annually. It's on our list of annual priorities for ACHD to consider, and it has been in their 5-year work plan at different stages over the last 10, 15 years through an economic development program that they had at one point in time, now through community programs or safety compliance program. So it's been talked about and even designed at different segments. In fact, phase 2, which is the south side of this corridor, so really making 3rd Street improved in existing right-of-way near Franklin, between here and Franklin, is actually set for design in 2028. It's this northern piece that still sort of lingers and is not currently in any real stage with ACHD or the city. So again, in 2009, East 3rd Street was selected, and part of that would be to cul-de-sac 2.5 Street. So basically, if you're coming southbound on 2.5 today, it would basically cul-de-sac right as you got to Coal Valley High School or Coal Valley School. So that was the preferred alignment at that time. Since then, some things have changed. There was a fourplex that was built just after this alignment was really studied. So if you were to make this alignment happen, you'd have to buy at least one. Looks like the address may be 1278, 1290, kind of right. Yep, right there. So this alignment would basically go right through those fourplexes, which again at that time were a brand new building to make that connection happen. Main Fairview was redone. So again, I talked about the split corridor, the one-way couplets, those options. Well, that's been constructed. Now you have Meridian Road as 5 lanes, and Main Street basically, which was previously 1st Street, largely is the same, although some sharrows were added and some other improvements were added to Main Street, but largely it stays as it was as 1st Street, at least in this part of the downtown corridor.
Caleb, if I may interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
You said there were some apartments down at Bradley, I believe, that would have to, down further south, that had been built recently. Okay. So
Sorry.
the alignment you're talking about shows hitting existing streets. But I'm not sure if they're really streets or if they're driveways or what they are. And would using them as drawn in what's in front of us, would that also take out the things on each side of that alignment that you're pointing to?
So, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, that fourplex that I was referencing was right here. So this was
Correct.
probably built 2000.
Okay. What about the ones
7, 8, somewhere right in there.
up at Bradley?
So these
those.
ones, I think you can use the existing 3rd Street right away. You do have this parcel here, right? That's largely developed, and there's some interest that is here that is in the room that is curious about this alignment. But you could use the other piece of 3rd Street going further north towards Fairview, and not affect essentially this block of.
That was my question. So it could go through there and not affect
That's not necessarily
Okay.
a deterrent, if you will. I will point out, and this is some of the other things that have changed. There has been an entitlement granted on this parcel, which actually goes all the way to Fairview and includes the Idaho Pizza Complex. It's right there. So this is all one big piece of property. So, and they're moving forward through their project. So the 4th Street alignment essentially is infeasible at this point because council's acted on that project. So you really are sort of down to 3rd or 2.5 Street. 4th really doesn't become an option anymore because of what was approved here. So kind of fast forward a little bit, but that's changed. Main Street used to have that free running right-hand turn at Fairview. That's no longer the case, right? You have to stop and then you can make a free right, but it's not that free running right. There's the artwork there with the flagpole that was there for many, many years. And now there's the art piece. Can't remember what it is now, flags or banners or birds or something. But there's art right there by that Wells Fargo. So that intersection configuration has changed over the last 15 years as well. So things definitely have changed even in this block or these few blocks of the greater downtown area. Again, I sort of mentioned it in my opening. Last time that we talked about this, which was in December, the chair made the comment that it wasn't quite ready for prime time. I made that note. I think Ballard had some questions. Lewis had some comments too about wanting some updated numbers. And I think a lot of what you see in the packet that the consultant has done hopefully helps with some of the right-of-way costs and estimates and the construction costs and estimates and impacts to properties. There weren't any new traffic numbers that I've seen, but there is some updated data since we talked about this briefly. I kind of whet your appetite, if you will, for this topic back in December. It was not an action item at that point. And again, we're trying to gear up for that. I do think, and Commissioner Ballard, again, not to put words in your mouth, you're right there, but you did have some concerns about the intersection of 2.5 Street at that point in time and Coal Valley and that type of a thing. So just again, a quick refresher. Those are some of the thoughts and concerns, comments that I heard. Actually, Commissioner Smith had some comments too about maybe 3rd Street making the most sense. But again, that kind of depends on how you define makes the most sense. I think there's pros and cons here, and it's not an easy answer. I will, as I maybe transition to a little bit more of the impacts, just to get a little more background. Fairview Avenue is assumed to be 7 lanes someday. So there's some more change that is planned for this area. So that is in ACHD's capital improvements plan for widening Fairview here. Typically, when something like that happens, left turning movements out, even at public roadways, can be restricted. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a center median going down there. Again, maybe since the theme of this is some history, back in the early 2000s, ACHD invested quite a bit of man hours and other resources towards what they called the Fairview Access Management Plan. They sort of backed off, not sort of, they did back off of that at that point in time. Again, this is the mid 2000s. A lot of the businesses got really concerned about negative impacts if there was a center median in Fairview, even without 7 lanes, just at 5 lanes. So there's 1 mile, sorry, this is sort of a side comment. There's 1 mile in Boise that had 99 curb cuts just in that mile. And there were a lot of crashes and just not, the corridor wasn't, and still could be argued, isn't working very well. So they did this multi-year study on access management plan. It's still a thing, but it's not what it sort of was envisioned when it was developed. But access management, certainly on arterials, is still a principle that they try to work by here. And whatever this alignment goes, we have to consider that Fairview would likely be 7 lanes at some point in time. Another thing just to sort of consider that we've talked about as staff, and there's some, I almost called it momentum. I'll stop short of momentum because I really don't know how much there is, but north of 2.5 3rd Street, somewhere in there, having a kind of a backage road that would go behind Albertsons and come out at Meridian Road too, to make this a real four-legged intersection is also something that's been talked about, and there's been some engagement with some of the property owners there about the potential to make that happen, depending on where this collector roadway intersects Fairview, 2.5 Street in particular. I guess the last thing I'll say before before more conversation and any questions, the last page of the updated, so it looks like Craig's driving. So if you can scroll all the way down to the bottom, I just want to throw this out there. So again, the consultant looked at 2.5 Street, just basically straight as is today, basically as the collector roadway, instead of it having to a reverse S curve, kind of like all the other alignments had previous. But these other options are another thing that I want to just kind of put out there as we can do nothing. You can focus in on making the existing right-of-way be improved, essentially. Some mini roundabouts are also another, I mentioned the T there at the ball fields. You could do something there at those intersections even that would largely it wouldn't make it still feel, like a straight corridor, but you could probably do something just at those intersections that largely would help the traffic circulation there potentially. And let's see, what's the other thing he called out? Oh, east-west connections. Also really, in my opinion, can help some of the connectivity. It doesn't necessarily address the north-south collector issue, but I think irregardless, staff's going to look for some, east-west connectivity to this roadway in the future. So that you don't have to go down to Carlton or up to Fairview, that there's something sort of mid-block that would make those connections. So not sure what I'm still not tracking what you're asking me to say.
Commission, just to lend some weight to the decision and considerations, there have been multiple fatalities in this area on Main and in the Fifth area in the last several years. So there's wrecks, but there's also people that have died. So however we solve that, it's important.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Sorry. There was one, time is a little, but within a year or so, there was a pedestrian that was killed just right there at Fifth between lakes. So you do have the signal at Lakes, and then at Meridian, there was a mid-block fatality there here about a year ago anyway. So there's a safety concern here with this as well. So, and maybe just it's in that report, but just back to the signal spacing for just a second. It's about 550 feet between 2.5 Street and Main, and about 830 feet between 3rd Street and Main. Neither one of them meet, district policy for offsets. I mean, they're looking at half-mile type spacing on arterial collectors. But there are also examples in this white paper of other signals that are about that far apart. So I guess all that to say, it's something to consider, but I don't think that should be the driving force as it really seemed to be back when the study was looked at, in 2008, 2009. I wouldn't worry too much about the signal spacing. So again, like I said, with that, Mr. Chair, open it up for comments or questions.
Thank you, Caleb. Let me give you one that I don't expect you to answer today, but maybe jot down to have the consultant talk about when he comes next month. The estimates spread through the lower third of this document to me show that 2.5 Street has got a $6,029,000 price tag in today's estimate, the latest estimate. And that's on page 76. And then 3rd Street has got a $5,618,000. My question is, I'm puzzled why doing 2.5 would cost more than doing 3rd, when 3rd goes up through a lot of places where the road doesn't even exist.
So, Mr. Chair, I think I can actually answer that one today if
Really?
that's okay. Yeah, I'll
Somebody
try
must
anyways.
have asked it before,
Well,
or else you saw it.
I think so. I think what could be a little bit clearer. So 2.5 Street at Fairview to about Badley or something wasn't considered back in 2008, 2009. What you see on that page is that reverse S curve. So those costs would mean taking out, and they're still calling it the 2.5 Street alignment,
Right.
which is a little bit of a misnomer because it does dive back in over
Correct.
3rd Street. So those costs talk about the impacts with the graphic that's in the right-hand margin. So if you look at that, that's through the field, through a bunch of units, and then through a bunch more. That's why it's more expensive.
So on page 76, the estimate I just mentioned is not doing the lower S curve and going straight up 2.5
Correct.
Fairview?
Correct.
Do we have a price for that one?
Yeah, I believe it was towards the end then, because he looked at that.
Because I didn't, if the 6029 is the double S curve,
Yeah,
then I don't know that I saw or recognized a single S curve and going straight up.
yeah, you're right, Mr. Chair. I don't actually see that either.
So I guess I'm back to where I started, a question for the consultant when he comes next month.
Yeah, I think there was a question there. I just, that one, in my understanding anyways, that $6 million cost is higher again because of all the additional right of way.
The double S curve.
Yes. But I'll see if we can get an updated cost. If not the S curve, it's just the first curve.
Yeah, the single lower
Yeah.
southern curve, and then using, and whatever has to be done to make 2.5 as exist, work on up to Fairview. Commissioners, comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lewis.
just a question. So if I understood correctly, the Third Street alignment was adopted by City Council in 2008, and it's been on the master street map since 2008. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, the first part of that is correct. I don't remember when the master street map actually first got adopted. So, but the point, I think the heart of your question is, yes, it's been on the books for quite some time on many different, in studies and plans. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I guess question for Caleb and or I guess for staff as a whole. Nothing comes to mind, but does the city / I guess ACHD, I don't see why they would, but do any of us treat collectors in the Old Town area differently than we do in other areas regarding speed limits, regarding design standards, or anything like that?
So I think I just looked at Brian, so I'm gonna have him supplement. I will say, and I was trying to on the fly think, we did a cross-section master plan for downtown. And I do believe that we have some T-lip consistent collectors in the downtown on those cross sections, but I don't know how they're actually different, if at all. So again, I'm gonna kind of put Brian on the spot. I think collectors have their own, we treat them similarly, not in the downtown citywide as far as like access management and things like that. This one in particular, I think we're looking for the multi-use pathway because of the connections across the railroad tracks down to Franklin. So we'd want it to be a, pedestrian bicycle friendly corridor too, wherever it goes. So we are looking for that to be not just a standard collector. So the cross section does vary, but I don't know if there's anything else that maybe is worth noting where we treat it downtown any differently.
Members of the commission, in that last part, they're worth noting. I don't know if this is worth noting, but there are several things that the answer to is yes. So the architectural standards manual for architecture applies different standards depending on whether you're an arterial or collector roadway. The street cross section master plan adopted 10 years ago. It applies some different standards. You'll note at least the way we have typologies today, we don't have any on-street parking for principal arterials. We have some for minor arterial Pine, but Main, basically in the downtown area, is not our principal arterial. Collector roadways do allow, per all of our standards, on-street parking, but arterials are a bit more difficult. So parking would be the biggest one.
Yes, sir.
I guess something for discussion for next week, or
Month.
next month. Some here among the commission too, I guess, is the overall intention of this extension. Obviously, it was designed, and I think somewhere in this report it actually says it still is the intention to pull pressure off of that couplet And so if the goal is traffic flow, I'm still having a hard time understanding why this new 2nd and a half street would be better. I think 3rd Street makes the most sense to me from a pure traffic flow perspective. Or I don't know if the other or if traffic engineers in the room have any other thoughts, but just from kind of a layman's perspective, it seems a straighter shot, seems more distance from other access points onto Fairview, things like that. Where 2nd and a half makes more sense to me is from an Old Town kind of integrated planning perspective, through things like the corridor connection, talking like a multi-use pathway, more of kind of long-term planning around Old Town kind of interconnectivity and the kind of future land use ideas around the Old Town area. So it seems like a lot of the arguments for 2nd and a half that I see here from the MDC consultant are more around long-term planning than actually traffic flow. And so I would be curious to understand if that reflects a shift in priorities, or I know we don't have those traffic numbers that were mentioned before, but yeah, I guess that's the area where I'm struggling. So I don't know if there's any feedback that can be passed along, or if there's any other, that's why to me, 3rd Street seems to make the most sense still. Of maybe it's a little bit more expensive, maybe there is more right-of-way acquisition, but it does seem from a traffic flow perspective, again, to my layman's perspective, the safer and more efficient route from just pure traffic flow to remove pressure from that couplet.
Other commissioners?
I will, since there's a lull, I will just restate, I think there is a hope and even I'll say an expectation that maybe next month you all can come up with some recommendation that we can then forward to the city council. So maybe I'll outline that for you in the next memo of sort of some of the options as I see them, just to sort of get the blood flowing a little bit. But we are hopeful to wrap this up maybe next month with. So I'd ask you to think about it. Email me any additional questions, thoughts, comments, needs you may have before next month, or you can state them now. But again, we'll list this out again next month as an action item.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I read the packet and thought 3rd Street's straight shot. Seemed obvious to me, but simple. The piece that I'd be curious about is what the chairman brought up on 2.5 Street without maybe if we eliminate some of those curves. The other part that kind of interested me, and I don't know how much they explored it, is not doing anything. It's been 17 years. There must be some benefits to not doing anything if we wait 17 years to do it.
So Mr. Chair and Commissioner Hopkins, it sounds like you read the packet. The do nothing option is essentially the back page of that. It's not do nothing, but there's some other things you could do that also are helpful that isn't as disruptive to existing homes or even right of way, that enhance the transportation network in this area. So I think that's how I would sort of couch that last page is maybe put this thing to bed and you didn't do anything for the last 20 years. So maybe you don't do anything, but here's some other things to consider that help sort of infill this and make it feel like part of your downtown and help the connectivity and some of all those things. So I do think that's on the table.
Chair? Well, a comment to the commissioner, or maybe it's Taylor, who I found the other options interesting. I mean, that was my note in the margin. I didn't say anything about good, bad, or indifferent, but I did, having gone through this mass of information, to be given that at the end was almost like being shown, wait, there's a trap door out of here. So,
Can I add to that? So is it just not the popular thing to leave it alone? Everybody, it's just somebody's got a thorn in their skin to do something there or what?
You know, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll jump in a little bit. So when Meridian and Maine were done, the way they were actually constructed is the city ended up with no bike or pedestrian corridor from Franklin to Fairview that's friendly, that's downtown, that supports the downtown environment. Third Street is envisioned to be the corridor where we actually have all of our multi-use, and whether it's third to 2.5 or whatever option, but sub option in there, but all the city's pedestrian oriented connectivity from Story Park north to 5 Mile Creek and throughout is basically planned to happen on Third Street because we have nowhere to put on Meridian Road and Main Street's too narrow. So there is a need that do nothing doesn't really address long term, and that's that corridor for people that aren't for non-automotive vehicles or trips.
Thank you.
That changes.
Others?
Mr. Chairman,
I think I heard Mr. Lewis first, and then I'll come back around to you.
so
Oh, I
question,
stood in line about 5 minutes ago, but go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
just a quick question. At the beginning of the slide deck, it was addressed as this presentation was to the city council and to MDC in June last month. So what is the current status of this presentation? So it's been given to MDC, it's been given to city council. Where does it sit today?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's a good question. So you got kind of an advanced copy of what the MDC's consultant was prepared to share with you and council when they're before you. So this is a draft. There may be some additional changes when we put it in your packet next month, or some version of this in your packet next month. They have not been back to the council. The mayor wanted you all to make a recommendation before this consultant then presents sort of what they heard from you and what they're going to present to the council later in August, September, something like that. But nothing official has happened since December when the consultant brought this up for the first time with council.
Mr. Ballard.
So, Mr. McClure, I want to, and you may have touched on this or you alluded to it, and I think Mr. Hopkins put the other piece to it. I'm going to say that this is half a loaf, because we would, if you take Third Street, and I agree with Jared's comment that Third Street makes sense, but what happens when the traffic gets to Carlton? And I'm thinking, so we got the building across the street that's just about ready to restart. So you're going to have traffic getting to that building. But what happens between Carlton and Broadway here to get to Franklin? That's still the 2-lane residential street. And I'm taking into consideration a lot that we've talked about, because we're pulling traffic off of Main Street here, which I get. But this structure across the street is going to draw a lot of traffic. And I'm applauding the effort to say, okay, Third is great, but where does the bridge go to get the rest of the way to service this new building, as well as to get to Franklin? We're creating a bottleneck, I think.
Commission, members of the commission, I may be misunderstanding a little bit. The new buildings over there have, it's not what I would hope for, but they have preserved the amount of right-of-way necessary for on-street parking, 10-foot multi-use pathways, separation between multi-use pathways and buildings, parkway. There's full cross-section ability all the way from Franklin to Carlton without doing anything spectacular or weird. So we can do everything we need all the way to Carlton now. It's sort of what happens north of Carlton where things get a little bit more dicey. Does that answer your question?
Well, it's what happens south of Carlton.
So south of Carlton all the way to Franklin, we have adequate right of way to meet the city's long-term vision there.
Okay, so long-term, that road would be expanded.
And that's part of the program that Caleb mentioned earlier. Currently in ACHD's 5-year plan, as part of the formerly community programs, is basically redoing that street, inputting new curb gutter sidewalk, the whole 9 yards. So
It wasn't critical. It was for my clarification, and you've supplied that. Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just kind of to follow on Commissioner Hopkins' thoughts. Um, if the goal really is multi-use interconnectivity beyond just, traffic relief from Meridian and Maine, I don't know, quite do nothing, but the roundabout option seemed particularly attractive to me. And so I guess I think there's really three kind of routes or three visions in my head of if it's pure just traffic relief, then I think third makes the most sense. If the goal is to integrate pedestrian and multi-use into kind of a downtown environment, I think the roundabout approach makes more sense. If we're trying to get a little bit best of both worlds, which I mean, to me, honestly seems a little bit maybe worst of both worlds, is second and a half. I guess again, I'm putting that out there more as fodder for next month's meeting. But that's kind of where I'm sitting. So I really would love to understand more of council's perspective and staff's long-term vision. How does this fit into kind of the downtown, old town environment? And I mean, am I right or am I off base of kind of those kind of three options being appropriate for those uses? Because that's how it's reading to me at the moment.
I'll maybe just share, and I mentioned it a little bit more, than this is probably more for next month, but to me, there's a lot of assumptions. And in my head, when you're rattling those things off, my vision for downtown, and again, even the alignment north of Fairview, if that, then this is going to more traffic. If not, probably not as much traffic. So again, what assumptions are you making when you come up with what we do with this segment? Well, if you tell me that there's another collector roadway that's in alignment on the north side of this and it ties into Meridian Road, this is going to be, people are going to use it. We got, a project over here, right? That's my straightest shot to get to Fairview. Yeah, I'm taking it. And I got a signal there and I can even, so I think there's just so many different scenarios there. And I'm not saying, put your blinders on and let's only look at this 4 blocks. But my answer sort of changes depending on, I don't think it gets as much traffic if it just dead ends at Fairview. You'll get some local traffic there, but it's not going to relieve traffic off of Maine or Meridian, in my opinion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I guess to that point, that would be helpful to understand from the consultant's perspective, because I think all of those kind of what ifs really only serve to make second and a half seem like the worst option to me. And so I'm curious to understand from their perspective of how they landed on second half as the better option, because I think they must be seeing something that I'm not. So that's I guess what I'm getting at would be helpful.
Okay. Anyone else? Did you get a little bit of what you were looking for? Okay. All right, moving on. The next item on the agenda, and Ms. Bevins, welcome to the whatever I want to call this, but I think you can hear a lot of possible questions for ACHD next month on this topic. So I'll just give you a heads up right now.
Okay, thank you.
Ex officio updates. We will start with, let me do it this way. Ms. Murray, do you have anything for us particularly today?
I was looking to see if it is on the official agenda or the work session, but the police department will be presenting to council about e-bikes and e-motorcycles and about our plans moving forward. Again, there's no code or anything being drafted. We're going to enforce using existing laws. So if any of the commission is interested in that conversation, you may be able to tune in on Tuesday and find out more.
Okay, that's this coming, as in tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At what time?
Oh, it's either on the 4:30 or the 6 o'clock. So I have to look. If it's on the regular meeting, then it'll be 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Chair,
Mr. Ballard.
may I ask Ms. Murray a question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, please.
Ms. Murray, David Ballard. So over the weekend, I read in part the city of Boise adopting an emergency ordinance, if I get that right, addressing e-bikes. am not comparing apples to oranges or whatever the appropriate saying is Meridian feeling some of the same pressure to whether it's laws, regulation, whatever you want to call it, to address the e-bike situation?
We're absolutely addressing it. I think I sent you the flyer that's gone out to the public. Right now, we're working on education and enforcement, getting the news out to parents and to kids. As the school year picks up, we're going to be working with the school district to try to use any resources they have to reach out to parents and kids as well. And West Ada has been, involved in all those conversations. So kind of Treasure Valley wide. We're all working to make sure that we get the word out, that parents know what's safe and what's not safe and when helmets are required, and all the things that we can possibly do to limit what we're kind of seeing on the roads right now.
Oh, please do, because I saw a couple of, I won't describe male or female, a couple of occupants on a scooter, hell-bent for leather, having fun in the sun. I get it. I just didn't want to see what happened to them.
Well, and the scooters are different. So there's the e-bikes, the e-motorcycles, and then the scooters, which are low power that have like a flat bed and you stand on it.
Right. But
So
it's the same
hopefully-
concern that I have.
I agree. Yeah. Those won't be regulated in the same way, except for, of course, we would stop them and talk to them. It would be more informational, whereas actually riding these high-powered e-motorcycles is against the law. So we have a lot more enforcement tools for the electric motorcycles.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sergeant Carter, do you have anything for us that is not going to come up later in the meeting? No, sir, regarding the police department, the traffic, and there's a couple of things you're probably going to either want to speak to or we're going to ask questions on later in the meeting, but okay, we'll look forward to that in a minute. Mr. Wasdall with ITD, anything from you, sir?
Yes, I've got our draft ITIP open in front of me. Let me get back. I had a question before about the Linder overpass. I've got funding here in 27 for construction, $7,276,000, 100,000 in right away. So we have the overpass. I'm not sure whether it's just other monies on it too, but confirmation it is funded. Also, my other notepad here, one of the projects we have in the project list there is the I-84 mobility study. We are having a stakeholder update with the cities of Nampa, Meridian, and Boise at the city of Meridian on Tuesday, July 21st to go over the results of that project. And unbeknownst to them, we have a federal highways presentation the week after that. So we're in sometime August, September, we'll have an online open house to put out to larger public the results of our study. The other one that has had eyes on it from time to time is the I-84 auxiliary lane project. That one, we internally submitted the PSNE package on June 22nd to headquarters. That has a 60-day review period. And that's not funded for construction, but pretty much the I-84 mobility study is coming up with a phasing plan of when we would like to see construction take place. So that's pretty much what I've got in our items right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Kate Dahl, have you joined us? Ms. Sweeney, what's going on in the school business? Nothing, you're probably virtually closed, nothing at all happening, not looking forward to the fall or anything. Thank you, ma'am. Austin Miller, have you joined us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. So just a real quick update. Mark sort of touched on it already, but Compass also has a public comment period open right now. So we're accepting public comment on a proposed amendment to Communities in Motion, our long-range plan. We also have the updated Regional Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the TIP. The TIP also includes ITD projects. So we're sort of sharing that list of projects in partnership with ITD to solicit feedback on their projects in our region. So this does include actually the list of projects that you all were talking about a little bit earlier when, to use your own words, you were talking about projects getting slashed. We do have them on our list being moved to unfunded for that construction component as was being talked about. So if you want to know more or provide comment on it, I gave Craig some flyers to hopefully pass out to you all. You can either scan the QR code and it'll take you there, or if you don't want to do that, you can just visit compassidaho.org, or if you don't want to do that, you can just come and talk to me tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, sorry. We have an open house at Centennial Park, so that is the one just 2 blocks or so east of where you currently sit at Centennial Park. I'll be there from 3 to 6. I noted Citra mentioned there might be an interesting city council meeting going on a little bit after that. So if you want to come say hi to me first, I'll be there, glad to go through the projects and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
And we did get your handout, so thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Bevins, anything from ITD?
ACHD.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
ACHD. Got too many, I
Yes.
got too many letters floating around in my head. Yes, ma'am, please.
I don't have anything for you today. Being my first meeting, and I've been on vacation until a couple hours ago. But happy to answer any questions you have right now, and then I promise to have some updates going forward.
Okay, that's the last of our ex officios. Anyone have any questions for any of them on any topic?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I would just, I'll plug Austin's event tomorrow afternoon as well. And I would say you probably either go before or after the 4:30 meeting if you wanted to listen to Miss Murray talk about e-bikes, e-scooters, and e-motos. But they have ice cream. He failed to leave that out. So that's the selling point. 3 to 6. I don't know what flavors. So if Austin still, maybe he can, I don't, but anyways, there's ice cream.
Okay. All right. Moving along, we went through a period of time several months ago of not having any staff communications, and now somebody found the mailbox and got them out of there, apparently. The first one today was the email we got announcing that Ms. Bevins was joining us as a ACHD rep. The next one, item 6, is labeled as River Valley Records Crosswalk Request. And at the mayor's meeting, that was the only information I had about it. But then when I read what's in your packet, or in our packet, I learned that it's slightly, well, not slightly, a fair bit different from the time and effort we put into the Records River Valley Crosswalk question that we had a year ago or more.
Or more, yeah.
So I think Mr. Bergman is ready to present some information on this one, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have a little bit of information, some history regarding this topic. We also have a citizen online that would like to address the commission at the end. I will give him an opportunity, or you can give him an opportunity when you've discussed.
Okay, you're proposing that they are available, and you're suggesting we do them after your presentation?
Correct. I want to provide you the historic.
Okay, please.
information. So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, this is kind of a brief timeline of what's happened in the area over on East River Valley and records. I've compiled a couple of previous meetings from Transportation Commission, but the records go as far back as 2021. looks like there was an initial complaint about noise, traffic, and safety near Kleiner Park. Nothing was officially brought to the commission, but in January 2022, John Wheeler, a resident, raised concerns on Records Avenue south of River Valley. That is the red star. At that point, ACHD did a review of that intersection, looking at the posted speed limit. At the time, ACHD did not recommend a speed limit change, but the Transportation Commission found it fit to make a recommendation to lower the speed limit on that road. So from there, the topic kind of died off, but then was later brought back in July of 2023. This was more of a full-fledged kind of meeting topic regarding the yellow star at the intersection of East River Valley and Records Way. The resident requested more of a police presence and asked for a traffic light because there was concerns about drivers rolling through the stop with speeding as well. A couple of near misses involving pedestrians using that crosswalk. During that discussion, the commissioners noted that the records in River Valley had become a reoccurring issue, and you've been dealing with this kind of ever since. That you made the recommendation to have ITD look at installing a roundabout and working with ACHD. That recommendation never actually came back from ACHD or ITD and didn't appear on any further Transportation Commission meetings. So at this point, we're now in July.
If I may stop you there for a moment.
Of course.
The red star and the yellow star, to my memory, were initiated by the people that own units in the white condo building between the red and yellow star. It came out of that, I think it's a 55 and older condo structure. And if I remember correctly, we were getting letters, petitions, et cetera, about that. And as you said, they were concerned about people trying to walk to the park up at the Records and River Valley intersection and people rolling the stop sign going east on River Valley and turning south on Records. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the speed limit on Records was lowered sometime during or through all of these discussions from what it had been. You're nodding that I'm correct? Mr. Lewis, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, the speed limit after this was lowered from 30 to 25.
Okay.
And also in the comments, ITD has nothing to do with this. It's only ACHD.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And if I remember, the ACHD came back and told us no on the roundabouts.
That's my memory as well. Okay, carry on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So at this point, July 2026, we had another issue brought up to our attention from a citizen. At this point, it involves mostly East River Valley Street and the intersection where the apartments are to the north, which are the Regency apartments. Many citizens have asked for a speed study to be done and for a possible crosswalk to be added at that location. So this is the East River Valley intersection with Records. And here is the intersection in question where they are requesting a crosswalk. Now, I will note that VRT did come to, or did bring information to the August 2023 or 2024 Transportation Commission where they let you know that they installed bus stops at this intersection. So there is a VRT transit stop here on the south side of the road, and then one as well on the north side of the road.
And this is looking west on River Valley.
Correct.
With the
Regency apartments are going to be on.
Right,
yep.
And the white roof is the Boise
Co-op.
Okay.
So at that point, we looked at this kind of intersection to see what options we had. But at this point, just because of the traffic, we're concerned about adding a crosswalk at this location. Traffic doesn't come off of Eagle Road at a speed that is probably comfortable for the residents. So we're going to leave it up to you guys to make that recommendation and kind of determine where you want to go with this.
That it? Okay, let's hear from the gentleman that's online, if we may. If you would, give us your name and address, please, and then you're welcome to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Hi, my name is Travis. I'm located within these apartments, the Regency apartments.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Tell us
Thank you, Mr.
tell
Chairman.
us what your situation is.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time and allowing me the time to speak. I'm a resident of these apartments located on the street, as well as an employee with the Boise Co-op located within the village. And the testimony I'm giving today is what I've gathered from my 4 years of residency here. The location in question, East River Valley Street, it is becoming increasingly more hazardous as our population grows. The village, which is Meridian's largest, most popular shopping center, sits directly across the street from these apartments, which is home to a significant number of residents who frequent the shopping center. Because of its closeness, the complex is even considered a residential portion of the village itself. But the only way one can walk to the village from these apartments is by taking a detour to either to Records Ave or Eagle Road, which is an unnecessary distance to walk to simply cross the street. Many residents are elderly or have physical disabilities that make it difficult to walk to these locations. And as a resident myself, as well as an employee of the Boise Co-op, I witness residents such as these crossing the middle of the street in wheelchairs and walkers, and I even see parents pushing their children in strollers across this street daily as I cross the street back and forth from my home to my place of work. Drivers on this road have expressed concern as they recognize not all who drive are always aware of their surroundings, that a collision involving a pedestrian is quite likely. The store director of the Boise Co-op, as well as the property management for the Regency apartments where I live, have both shared these concerns and agreed with my testimony. Also in April, I'd submitted a request for a crosswalk in this location on ACHD's website. And I had spoken with Joseph Heath, an assistant traffic engineer with them. And he had sent a team to survey the street to observe demand and gaps in traffic. And from this, he had determined that the lack of available gaps in traffic was enough to warrant a crossing in the location. And unfortunately, I intended on bringing that data with me, but it seems I lost the email from him. That said, better accessibility for residents should be provided, especially for those with disabilities that limit the distance they can walk. Crosswalk in this location isn't just a convenience, it's a necessary safety precaution. And I'm attending this meeting today to request prioritization of this project, as the longer it takes to have safety for our pedestrians, the more likely our chances are of seeing an injury or fatality. And as I attend, I also have with me a petition for which I'm still actively gathering signatures through my efforts, as well as the help of my neighbors and coworkers. I currently have 67 signatures, and those have all been obtained within a matter of 2 weeks. I also have been given testimony from 6 of these signers with permission to share it on your behalf, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if you would repeat a little slower what you said about ACHD's result of looking at this and when they did that, please.
Sure. This was done in April. I submitted that request. I had spoken with Joseph Heath. He is an assistant traffic engineer with ACHD. He sent a team to survey the street to observe the demand and the gaps in traffic. I don't have the exact day that he had done it, but he had asked me for a time frame, and I recommended coming on a Friday, as that is typically when the Boise Co-op receives the most amount of business, particularly from people within the Regency apartments. And he had determined that the lack of available gaps in traffic was enough to warrant a crossing. And again, I intended on bringing that information with me, the data, but I lost his email that he sent me.
If you could get that and send that to Craig Bergman, we'd appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have Diane Bevins who would like to make a comment online.
Okay, Ms. Bevins, give me, yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll go with Ms. Bevins and then ask commissioners for their questions and comments. Go ahead, Ms. Bevins.
Okay, Chairman Steed, I do have a little bit more information about the study that was done by ACHD, and it was determined that it needs to be an enhanced crossing. So either an RFB or PHB. We couldn't just simply stripe a crosswalk because that wasn't a safer option. So an enhanced crossing, whichever side of the driveways that it will need to be constructed on. As you can see, there are no pedestrian ramps crossing River Valley in that area. They only cross the private driveways. And there's a long list of other enhanced crossings. So prioritizing will be probably a challenge, but I'm happy to provide the list of requested enhanced crossings that we already have in the city of Meridian. So this one could be prioritized among that existing list.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
So I guess question regarding whether this is feasible as an enhanced crossing. Sorry, I'm looking on the maps on my phone at the moment. But if you go just south of kind of this if we're looking at River Valley Street on the north of this section of the village, East Village Drive is on the south, and just about the same distance, almost a vertical north-south line, there's a non-enhanced crossing on East Village Drive at almost exactly the same spot relative to Eagle. I'm curious what difference exists. Is it purely volume, or is it something else between River Valley Street and Village Drive that renders a non-enhanced crossing here not viable or not safer?
And there's a question from Ms. Bevins.
Yes, or anyone or staff or anyone with the knowledge.
Ms. Bevins, do you?
Yes.
I
Yes,
think
Chairman
you can
Steve.
see, I think you can see where he's talking about. Do you have
Yes, sir.
any comment?
This one is an enhanced crossing. This is an
This is
RRFB.
enhanced?
Yes, it's an
Okay.
RRFB here. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Well, there you go. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Other commissioners?
So
Mr. Ballard?
if I may, if there is an enhanced crossing there on records, am I hearing this right?
If one were to be put in, there isn't one now.
What do we just look at?
That was Valley
That was south down at Village Drive.
Village Drive, yeah.
All right, all right. All right.
Same thought though,
What they're looking for is something similar up
that.
at River Valley.
Mr. Chairman,
Lewis.
Hopkins, but that works.
Hopkins. If you took straight.
So an enhanced, Miss Bevins, the reason we can't put an enhanced one there like there is on Village is because there's not the facilities already in place once they cross there. Is that correct?
Chairman Seed and commissioners, we can put enhanced crossing in here. We absolutely can, but it's going to require some construction of the pedestrian ramps and then adding the signal infrastructure. But I'm just saying that there's a long list of requested enhanced crossings already, and that if I can provide that list to the commission, maybe then the commission could prioritize this one.
Okay. So it's not just a matter of a couple of poles there, and it's a matter of having to create a ped crossing in the sidewalks or lack of sidewalks, as the case may be.
Correct.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I think I'm going to trade carefully, and Caleb, feel free to, if there's anything that I need to add to the public record on planning and zoning in August. But there's actually a project right where this mattress firm is north here. There's a proposal to essentially extend these apartments out and fill this in with multifamily residential. And one of the main concerns that staff has is the kind of existing issues on River Valley Street. And so I think it's worth maybe looking at prioritizing this higher with potentially additional residential or some other use coming in. And I think it also just generally makes sense with a transit stop there. I think if I get off the bus on one side of the road and I need to get to the other side of the road, it's really easy to understand why someone might just, I'll just dart across the road. I think it makes sense for there to be a crosswalk here. Now, what gets deprioritized based on that? I think that's an open question. But so I would love to see, and maybe it's something that I don't know if that's the prioritization subcommittee takes a look at or what the process is, but I think it might be worth having that conversation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask the question I ask often in situations like this. So the village was there first, the apartments came later. Where's the traffic study for these apartments? And did the traffic study recommend a pedestrian crossing? And if it did, why wasn't it included with the apartments, included in the cost of the apartments? And then why do we have to come back now and retrofit this situation?
Those apartments were built 15, 20 years ago, maybe. My wife and I looked at those apartments long before we ever moved down here. I remember doing that. So they've been there quite a while, and I don't know that any of the staff or Ms. Bevins could remember whether or not there was a traffic study back then.
Well, Mr. Chair, I bet there was a traffic study for both projects, for the Regency at River Valley and the apartments and for the village, but they're both constructed in multiple phases. So it wasn't like one was there and then the other. It's phase here, phase there, phase here, so they've both been building up over the last 2 decades. It doesn't really answer your question. I don't remember what was in the TIS for either one of them. I do know that they had them though. Don't know what they said. So sorry, that's not very helpful. Probably didn't address a crossing there at River Valley if I had to speculate on that, or the need for one.
Mr. Chair,
Just about.
another question. So Eagle and River Valley, there's a signal there, correct?
Correct.
There's cars that use that signal to turn into the village. If we put a crosswalk, whether it's mid-block or up the street, do we then compromise the number of cars that can turn into River Valley from that light if the crosswalk light is activated?
What do you mean by compromise?
How many cars can you put on River Valley when the crosswalk light says, do not pull across? And I'm thinking about the crosswalk right behind us here, that if the traffic's heavy enough, I get it, but we're going to stack up cars there. I'm not the engineer. I'm just asking a question.
Regarding backing up to Eagle Road.
Stacking.
Stacking up to Eagle.
Well, yeah, okay, you're getting in a line, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
and I'll leave that to the engineers, but, I'm trying to figure this out too. And, where's the best place to put a cut across that road that can address many problems without creating a larger one?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Smith.
just having looked at this a bit, I mean, I do want to note there's that inlet into the village. If I'm turning right off of Eagle before I get to kind of where the point in discussion is, where that bus stop is, about halfway down the block, there still is that inlet into the parking lot. Whenever I kind of come off of Eagle into this area, I turn in before I even get to the half block. Because there's often a lot of cross drive aisle traffic in front of the co-op, in front of those other stores. So I don't know about stacking itself, but to be candid, I don't know. I wouldn't personally be concerned about stacking onto Eagle with a crosswalk there, because there are outlets, or I guess inlets, on either side kind of regardless of which way you're turning off of River Valley before you get to that point. The only people that really are halted are those trying to, it seems like going from Eagle to Records directly and vice versa, not going actually into the center. But again, I'm not an engineer. I'll leave staff to comment on that, but that's just my, having looked at this area a bit in the past few weeks.
Other comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lancaster.
So Commissioner Ballard asked a very good question, and it was one that I was going to ask too. So the answer is 26, by the way. So, yeah, because Records and Eagle are about a quarter mile apart, as I recall. And so this would be an eighth of a mile. So that, you know, that would create 3 controlled intersections in a quarter mile, which seems like a lot even for ACHD. So yeah, I had the same concern about queuing there on River Valley. You know, assuming 660 feet between Eagle and this intersection, and length between cars about 25 feet. The answer is 26. So that is a, you know, reasonably large number, but it would be a concern. I echo what Commissioner Lewis said too. You know, where this is a request to connect two private land uses, right? So it seems a little self-serving to have you know, this connection to serve a captive audience at this apartment complex and this shopping center. So you know, that's not to pick on the gentleman who spoke. You know, he's representative of that, I suppose. I certainly see how that could be a want for him. It would be very convenient, right? But it does seem a little self-serving. So anyway, with that said, it seems like, you know, the appropriate action for this body would be to consider this in the next prioritization of projects. You know, I don't think we should promise or say that we won't, you know, act at this point, but that we'll consider it when we think about projects in the future, prioritizing those projects. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification.
Yes, sir.
It sounded like when ACHD did their study that they said that it met the requirements for an enhanced crossing, and it was added to the bottom of the priority list. So then it would be up to us, like Mr. Lancaster was just saying, if we wanted to move it off the bottom of the priority list, then we'll have to bring that up when we talk about the 5-year plan again. Is that correct?
That's what it sounded like to me. Is my guess is this is not currently on the prioritization list in any fashion. But from the study, it sounded like from Ms. Bevins, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it will appear on the next list because y'all have now studied this and said it's possible. Is that correct?
Chairman Steve, that it is on a list is what I'll say. Like I said, unless the city requests it, it will not move up in priority.
But will it be on the priority list?
I'll have to check on that. I will say that I'm not sure how many enhanced crossings are in the 5-year plan, but as you're aware, we have a safety engineering team that does rapid projects. Their list is quickly growing to make those projects not be rapid anymore. There's over 50 on the enhanced crossing list, and we can only do 5 to 10 a year through the rapid program, and then the 5-year plan also takes time, to move projects through that process.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Hood, did you have something?
I was going to say, Mr. Chair, thank you, that, what, with it being on the priority list is largely up to the Transportation Commission. So what I believe Craig's going to do is add it to the bottom, because and then the prioritization subcommittee will then weigh this against the other needs that are out there and figure out how high on that list this should be. I'll just say that's coming up. It's right around the corner. I know we're in summer, but usually in the late fall is when we start to do prioritization. So
I thought we just did that.
we did, and every year we do it. So, but it's coming up again. So, that's what I would say would happen. I will also just make a note, and has been part of this, but I'll talk to our staff, to our current planning staff. There are some, without getting too much into the merits of that, the next phase of the Bach Homes project to the north, they're modifying their drive aisles and their parking. It touches this property. So should it be the taxpayers that pay for this, or potentially this developer who's adding another phase? So sort of back to Commissioner Lewis's comment, they're adding more units here. And in fact, the parcel that they're adding is modifying the traffic circulation in the parking lot of this site. So there's something potentially that we could condition even through our current planning staff to say, evaluate / install this potentially. So I'm not going to guarantee that, but I just wanted to say that's something I'll talk to Sonia, who's working on this project, about the potential to bring up to our Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, Mr. Ballard, do you have something?
I was going to, in that conversation, if it isn't on a list, I'm making a motion to get this project on a list to be considered.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes.
can I just, so if I could just make a comment, maybe that might be helpful or cause.
Well, that was a formal motion, so I have to see if there's a second.
Well, okay.
Motion precludes anything else. Hearing no second. Yes, sir, go ahead.
So we do the priorities once a year, and there's usually several meetings about it, but that's behind us now. We're not going to be touching this for a while. To the comment that Diane made about lists, ACHD has a much longer list than we do, not just because it's the whole county, but because they take everything they get from anyone and put it on their list. And they lean heavily towards the city's priorities, but they're about to release their draft their draft 5-year plan for public comment. If there's, as I heard earlier in the testimony, some sense of priority or urgency to this, and we're not going to be modifying our list until we do it again next year, the public is welcome to comment on ACHD's public draft and tell the ACHD Commission that they think this is important. So that's their more immediate opportunity to have something happen. We can add it to our list, but we're not going to be providing a list to ACHD until next year for the next one.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it seems like there's 3 kind of things that can happen in parallel here. I'm not opposed to Commissioner Ballard's motion. I think there's some good good context there. It seems like there are 3 things we can do. One, it seems like Caleb's going to talk with Sonia about this expansion that I mentioned, which I'll leave my comments on that. But about potentially them funding that as a condition of approval. So that could be a route. Seems like there's desire among the residents, and they can make that known to ACHD through the public comment period. And then it seems like as a fallback, this can be, those are 2 more urgent or more near future options. And it seems like the option of adding it to the integrated 5-year work plan is still valuable as a fallback of, if none of those things happen, this can be reassessed then and can be discussed then. I think it's worth probably bumping up on the integrated 5-year work plan prioritization list. But again, to what Brian said, that's kind of further down the line. So I'd be supportive of adding that, but just with the understanding of there are 2 other routes that hopefully we can make some progress on before then. And in a perfect world, maybe we can remove this from prioritization in the future if we've made progress via a different route.
If it's been put in.
If it's been put in, or if funding is there.
Commissioner
So,
Steed.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Mr.
could.
Ballard.
This discussion reminds me of the article in the newspaper about the rats and eagle in Boise. And the city, if I read this article, saying, we don't have the authority to address the problem because it's not in legislation. And I go, okay, if this is a health problem, if this is a safety problem, and using Mr. Smith's, I'll borrow it a little bit, put a thinking cap on and come up with a solution. I think that's what I hear him saying. And so I'm going, okay, let's figure out something. And I like his idea that says, okay, do we send a message somehow to P&Z? Then maybe you tag this as a condition. Or, yeah, so,
I think maybe you already have.
all right.
Did I see another hand down there to my right?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lancaster. And I'm looking at the clock and not telling you not to speak. I'm suggesting we try to move on when we can. Don't want to
Understood.
cut anybody off.
So lest I forget our officer in the room, I'm curious if from a police perspective, do you see issues here? Is this a location of enforcement concern, or is it, not?
Is your mic on?
Now it is. Can you hear me? Thank you, sir. In reference to the village as a whole, or just the section where we're concerned about crosswalks? Because the village, yes, it's a huge concern on many different areas. My opinion about the crosswalk, I think it's a valid point. There are a lot of people that live over in the apartments that shop over there, and that does make it tough. There are speeders on that street as well. So it would make it tough, from my opinion, for someone trying to cross that street.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up. So do police respond to this intersection because of pedestrian crossings or concerns about pedestrian crossings? Is it a place that you do police work at?
Chairman Lancaster, we respond for speeders to that area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Officer.
Okay, if we may, moving on to the next item, which is, what are we doing? Item 7.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there any direction for staff on that topic, on how you would like us to proceed?
I thought Mr. Smith's recap of the various things that are occurring on the calendar outside of what we do but are involved in would create a scenario of how this would proceed. If you need more than that, I see Mr. Hood agreeing with me. If you need more than that, I can see if we can get that for you. But I was thinking that y'all had a pretty good idea of direction that you were hearing from the DAS.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that we had everything.
Okay,
We're okay. Thank you.
thank you. Keep us on the right track. Okay, item 7. I have to admit, not living in South Meridian, I thought standing timber concerns was a forestry question, but it isn't. Mr. Bergman, are you going to be the one to present us with this little
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
piece of correspondence we received?
Yeah, I can take the lead on this one. So we received Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we received a email from a Miss Cindy DeForest regarding some speeding and dangerous activities along Standing Timber Road. I'm loading up a map now to kind of show you the general area, but we are talking about Victory, and the general area is Victory and Meridian roadway, and Standing Timber is this long roadway that stretches between Victory Road and into this subdivision. She has included a couple of photos in her email requesting that commission make a recommendation to have police presence kind of look at this area. And we also included Sergeant Carter in the discussion to see if he knew of anything that might have occurred out there. But it appears that she is having reckless activities throughout the neighborhood for the last couple of years and decided to bring it to commission's attention.
Sergeant Carter. If you, no, I'm not going to ask this. If you would, comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Over the past 3 years, we've had 2 calls where we've taken actual reports. We've been out there another 2 times for reckless driving or cars doing donuts. I'll talk about the 2 cases that we had. One was a vehicle doing donuts when we arrived on scene, and that was at 3 a.m. When we arrived on scene, the vehicle fled, which led to a pursuit. We disengaged. We did follow up the next day. We did not locate a driver. We did locate a truck, but basically that was routed to file. We had one earlier, and that was in 2026, sorry, April. We had one in October of 25. That was at midnight 05. That was a car doing donuts or high-speed maneuvers, crashed into the HOA fence, I believe is what she is referring to. That hasn't been fixed, I believe. And he was cited for that action. No injuries on his part. I did reach out to Cindy. I've not heard back from her yet. I look forward to speaking with her so we can kind of get a game plan together for what is the best course of action.
I drove out there because I wanted to see where the standing timber was. And there are, I think, 3 intersections out there that have donut marks in them. They are, I started from the south and came up, but these are large intersections. They're not huge, but they're not your absolute typical residential to residential street intersection. So there's room for someone to play in them, apparently. And they all have marks. I don't know how, they're not covered in them. I mean, it's not like they're out there doing them constantly, but they have marks and the marks are still there. I looked on a Google Earth map that I could pull up, and there was marks at one of them back in May of 24. So as you said a moment ago, Mr. Bergman, it's been going on a while. Commissioners, what's your thoughts, comments?
Chairman, let me start.
Let me finish by, let me stop by asking our police sergeant, is this in the scheme of things, what level is this to the rest of your world?
Mr. Chair, great question. If it's important to Cindy DeForest, then it's probably going to be important to us in some sort of fashion, but it would rank very low. The fact that it's occurring from midnight to 0400 hours, most of the time, the city is fairly quiet at that time, so it would allow us to be in that area. But based on certain other calls that might be occurring, this might be a low priority as well.
Did I hear you first, Mr. Smith?
Maybe if I was on the draw, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it seems like this is an enforcement kind of issue. And it seems like the police department's on the case. I mean, kind of looking at it, it seems like these kind of larger intersections are a result of these, roads that have these medians in between them, and kind of necessitates this larger, wider intersection on these roads. So I guess good mental note from a planning perspective. But I think as far as this issue here, I don't know that there's really a solution that the commission can offer beyond asking the police department to take a closer look, which it seems like is already happening. So.
Mr. Chairman, do I have your permission to ask a question? And when can I get it?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I had a real simple question. What is this person's ask? Because I'm reading this, I understand what the officer is saying, but I don't see what she's asking. I was just trying to get a focus on the conversation.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes.
Cindy had several requests. One of them was for traffic calming measures.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I do have a question for staff. I mean, I guess my previous comment was based on the assumption, but I'd love any additional information or any of the traffic engineers in the room. Are there any traffic calming measures that we can offer related to an intersection specifically? Because when I think traffic calming measures, I think speed humps, bumps, tables, whatever ACHD is calling them these days. I don't envision those in an intersection. Is there anything in it related to these intersections that can be offered as traffic calming devices?
Commissioner Steed. Caleb's making fun of me right now, but I'm not a big fan of them. You don't typically put speed humps, speed cushions, it depends on who you're talking to for definitions, in an intersection. They typically go outside of that. What typically goes in an intersection, if you have space, say traffic circle, I'm not a fan, but that you could theoretically put a traffic circle in some of the larger ones out here. Some of the locations I can say, I've been out here, I live out here. There are newer donuts out here, including areas that are not just in the intersections. So it's, but you could put traffic circles in the larger intersections.
Mr. Chair, I'll look at the traffic engineers because there's probably more in the toolbox, but I could also think, and I don't know if technically it's a traffic calming measure, but functionally it is some of the bulb outs at the curbs too. So you can mess with the curb line a little bit as well, and that tends to have an effect on driver behavior. So,
Rank the intersection.
yep, you could have that curb, again, bulb out more into the intersection.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
it seems like we've had complaints about drag racing or high speeds in this Victory area. Sergeant Carter, have you heard any complaints about people hot rodding in that area? Loud?
Yeah, Chairman Hopkins, not to my knowledge.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Miss Diane Bevins is online raising her hand again.
Ms. Bevins, you're getting a lot of mileage for your first meeting. Speak,
Chairman,
please.
Chairman Steve's happy to help where I can. I would encourage the citizen to submit a request for traffic calming. There's a process. We have to go out and take traffic counts and do some measurements and measure the speeds of vehicles before a decision can be made about what we would recommend for traffic calming. But I checked our system and it has not been requested to ACHD yet.
Okay, and regarding speed humps or bumps, this is not a speeding letter, it's a donut letter. I know she mentioned that in her letter. I saw that in the original letter. But I think Mr. Hood's comment about bump outs as a way to try to impact donuts might be an ideal.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
question for Ms. Bevins. Given the context around the time of the complaint, the hours of the complaint, it seems to me that this would be kind of not fitting how ACHD normally does traffic calming studies regarding kind of looking especially at peak hours and traffic, cross through traffic, et cetera. Is there a method or a best practice for ACHD for when the complaint is specifically related to like evening hours and late night hour traffic and behavior? Does that change the way that the study is performed?
Chairman Steve, commissioners, the traffic calming request would be between the intersections, looking at speeding and volumes of cars. It wouldn't be something like people doing donuts in an intersection we would consider a law enforcement issue. Like bulb outs could be an answer. That would be a much larger, more expensive project than our annual speed cushion project that we have. That's easy, just every year when roads get approved for speed cushions, we have a contract every year to do that. So something like bulb outs would be considered a project that would then have to get prioritized in the 5-year plan.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I guess to comment on that, I think the ordinary processes for asking for traffic calming for this issue doesn't seem like they would make sense. And so the wager there would need to be some extraordinary approach if the citizen wants to get actual relief from a traffic calming standpoint. And so maybe this is something we, again, attach to our 5-year work plan requests and we look at it from a prioritization standpoint there. I don't know that submitting through the standard traffic calming measures would grant her the relief that she's looking for here. It seems like the most efficacious approach there is through enforcement. And maybe there's a longer term approach that through the integrated 5-year work plan we can resolve. But for the near term, seems like the law enforcement approach makes the most sense. I don't know if there's any other thoughts.
Mr. Lancaster.
Mr. Chairman. So I agree with what Mr. Commissioner Smith says. And I guess part of me also thinks that perhaps this is a demographic issue that may solve itself in a couple of years. So perhaps some maturity in having to buy their own tires may correct some behavior. So maybe this is something that we keep on the simmer, but I don't know, somehow keep an eye on this issue.
I don't doubt that this group will remember this because I don't know I've ever heard anything brought up here that we had heard before that someone didn't say, we've heard this before. So your memories are very good. Anyone else? Sergeant, if anything new, either your conversation with the complainant or your officers learn anything, or you happen to stumble upon a license plate you would love to talk to, we'd appreciate comments down the road.
Mr. Chair, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. The next one is the 10-mile ramp repair. The lady wrote about the exit ramp all westbound off of I-84 on to northbound 10-mile. And I know this well because that's how I get off the interstate to go to my house several days a week that I do it. She makes a point that it's a patched place right in the tire track. And as you're trying to contend with that, you're having to look at northbound traffic on 10-mile that you have to merge with because everybody else behind you on I-84 wants to get there too. Mr. Wasdall, do you know off the top of your head, I remember seeing something in the recent past that this was going to be worked on, not just that one place, but maybe that whole intersection?
It's not ringing a bell, but we do have every year interchange ramp maintenance projects throughout the district. I'd have to go do some detective work to see if this one's in the queue coming up or not.
Would you please do that and let us know next month? I think I've seen it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question of whose jurisdiction this is. I'm not sure it's ITD's. I think it may be ACHD's jurisdiction.
Whose ramp is it, folks? Is it ACHD's or ITD's?
It depends where the potholes are.
Potholes are,
Look, can you show us on the screen here where the potholes are?
which,
Oh, it's those?
no, just a minute.
No.
Show me the north side of this thing. Back up a little bit. Keep going. Whoa. Move your, whoa. Okay. If I'm looking south or north,
So, Mr. Chair, here is the overall intersection.
am I looking north or south?
North is at the top. This is
Okay.
northbound 10 mile.
Okay, move your arrow to the right of the top RD. Yes, Reyes, it's right there. It starts down about the beginning of the white and black car. The white, yeah, it runs up the left side of that whole thing as it goes up. Yeah, it starts at, it's up that left tire track of those cars. Before
Okay, we
you
would
pull
call
on
that
the 10
our,
before you pull on the 10 mile.
that's our CD ramp, northbound, since you can also go southbound. Okay, that gives me a little more detail to see whether that particular ramp
Okay.
is going to get
Thank
looked
you
at
for,
real
thank
soon
you
or
for
not.
asking.
Mr. Chairman, it's kind of a joint thing because after you make the right turn, there's a whole bunch of craters right there too.
They're both online with us. They're both hearing this.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, on down 10 Mile all the way to Franklin. They've been fixing it. It's just not staying.
Yeah, understood. Okay. I'm going to jump ahead to the number 9, looking at the clock, the Eagle to Conic roundabout. And for any of you that couldn't find that, I'm told that Taconic doesn't come up in some of the GPS mapping things. I know it doesn't mind, but after some doing, I finally found the place. And Mr. Bergman, you want to give us the quick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So we received a letter from Annette Alonso regarding this roundabout. She has concerns about the signage in the middle of the roundabout preventing cars from seeing pedestrians.
Which way's north, please?
North is going to be here. We are looking to the east. So this will be Taconic, up and down. North-south will be Taconic, and then east-west will be Eagle Road. So this car is heading northbound on Eagle Road.
Okay.
As part of this, we went out and looked at it. Members of the long range team went out and looked at it. We took these drone photos and also walked the entire roundabout using the crosswalks. To be fair, as a young child, I could see some concerns because height disparities, I could see just fine, but a child, I believe 12 and under, would probably have some difficulty seeing traffic. But ultimately, that's what those roundabouts, that's how those crosswalks are envisioned. There is an RFB, there is lighting. It is meant to be as reflective as possible. The other concern that was raised is that this roundabout technically falls within a school zone. There is an elementary school to the east of this roundabout. So there are some concerns involving children using this. And that is all I have. I will stand for any questions.
There are the rectangular rapid flashing beacons on all of those crosswalks, if I'm not mistaken, and that, if I'm counting correctly, that's 16 of them out there. And on the internet, it says those things cost $3,000 a piece uninstalled. So ACHD, not that where a child's life is involved, money's not a question, but they have made a very expensive attempt to contend with this situation. And when I drove it the other day, coming from the north and the south, you can see, usually you can see 2 beacons flashing on a particular crosswalk well before you get to the roundabout, and only in 2 cases do you lose one of them, but the other one is still flashing. It's not a case of a child hidden behind something when you've got a strobe light up on a pole telling you something's up here. The buttons need to be pushed. They're button activated. And I'm not going to tell you it's the safest thing in the world. I wouldn't dare do that. But it's not a totally blocked, can't find a child in a crosswalk situation. Have you got the photo that I sent you? You didn't get my email? My picture of it? It was earlier today.
Mr. Chair, I will look for it, but I do not believe
Okay.
I received it.
Mr. Chair.
We're at 5:29, folks. By rule, we will quit this at 5:30 unless somebody wishes to stay with it a moment longer. Hearing nothing, we will let this go. We'll thank everybody, ex officios particularly, you've been very involved today. Commissioners, staff, good work. We are adjourned.
All in favor, say aye.